Hey guys, sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I'm in Greenwich, Connecticut. Not exactly Long Island, but my friend who's visiting from Berlin right now mixed up the dates, and actually he and his father, who's quite elderly, needed me to come today and not tomorrow, hence a quick switch up. And we are in Greenwich, Connecticut today rather than in Brooklyn Heights, where we will be tomorrow instead. So for those of you who've been to Greenwich before, welcome back. For those of you who have not, then this will be your first time visiting Greenwich. Hi Jenny Jean, thank you for the Purple Heart. Always a pleasure. What's up, Folly Dude? Good to see ya. And I'm running a couple minutes late, so we'll let people kind of gather for a second. And meanwhile, why don't I just give you guys a little bit of the view from the top of Greenwich Avenue. Hey, Michaela, who's sending us a Gruß aus Aachen. I knew a guy from Aachen. His dad was like chief of police in Aachen for a while. Folly, thank you, buddy. Thanks, here we are. Miss you too. So that's why it's good to be back in virtual, right? So we are live right now from Greenwich. It's high 70s. Hi, Hale. Good to see ya. Welcome. And it is just after 2 o'clock. It's about 2:09, 2:10 on August 3rd. So if it's August 3rd and around 2:10 where you are, if it's August 3rd where you are, you're probably watching this live. And if it's not, then you're watching it as a playback. Thanks for coming. Oh, hey, Colleen. Welcome back to Greenwich. I know you were here not too long ago. Hey, Colleen, the police are not out with the white gloves today. Maybe it's just a weekend thing. What do you think? I don't know. But Moritz is there, which is good news. So, and Jenny, thanks for the Purple Heart over on YouTube. Mila, welcome. Welcome to the Gold Coast of Fairfield, Connecticut. Fairfield County, excuse me. Fairfield isn't actually its own city, but it's also the county which we're in right now. Greenwich just happens to be the largest of all the towns in Fairfield County. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome. And Greenwich is also where I grew up. Moved here when I was a kid from England. And what you see behind me right now is the Post Road. Officially, it's called East Putnam Avenue. But Putnam, right, named after Israel Putnam, who was a Revolutionary War general and leader. Probably, I believe that Washington would call him his most reliable kind of subordinate and general. Putnam had a story here in Greenwich where he was in 1779, I believe, was fleeing from the British and managed to escape down the road, down the Post Road, the Boston Post Road, right? That would bring mail up and down from Boston to New York, to Philadelphia, up and down the coast. This Route 1, if you will. And Israel Putnam escapes and warns Stamford. But the British will get to Greenwich and they will sack and burn part of the town there, which was not yet a really important part of what it will come to play. Because Greenwich back then in the 1700s was still mostly just farmland, originally settled under kind of a British push to keep New Netherlands, right, and New Amsterdam, the Dutch colony, which is to the west and southwest of us right now. They were trying to make sure that they didn't expand any further. We didn't need the Dutch up in Connecticut. And so Connecticut was one of those weird colonies that, unlike Massachusetts, and like the Plymouth, Boston guys, they were definitely here because those Puritans, those religious fanatics in a way, were forced out of England. They ended up going to Leiden first. The Dutch were more religiously tolerant. They ended up leaving Leiden and then heading to, Leiden's in the Netherlands, by the way, guys. They end up leaving Leiden and heading to, where they ended up in Massachusetts. Religious colony. New Netherlands, purely financial colony. The Dutch were not settling in New York or New Amsterdam and New Netherlands for religious reasons. They were doing it to make money and to have access to the Hudson River and get those beaver tails, the beaver fur, not tails, but the beaver fur, the beaver pelts from up the Hudson Valley, right, to get all that wealth out of them. Connecticut is kind of a dual, right? It does both of those things. There's both religious settlers as well as a clear commercial interest as Connecticut gets going. But Greenwich won't really start to grow as a city until you can connect it as a suburb with New York City, which means it won't really be until the 1800s that Greenwich will change from being, hey, Matthias, what's going on? Are you in Key West to Fort Kent? Matthias, thank you, Matthias Holtacker just posted up on Facebook the Post Road, which goes all the way from Fort Kent, Maine, down to Key West, Florida, and is 2,370 miles long. We're along that post road right now. And that's where this part of Greenwich starts to get built out, and why this part is important. Already by 1776, 77, 78, there was something here for the British to burn. That's the point, because we were along the post road. Now let's just taking a look at this road, which, as Matthias writes, is 2,370 miles long and goes all the way from Maine to Florida. And coming off of the road, hi Michelle, welcome back to Greenwich. Chance to explore. You have this, Greenwich Avenue. And this is what we are here to explore together today. It's a walk down memory lane for several of us that are on the live stream right now, including myself. So as we go, we'll talk about some of the standout architecture and buildings. This is sort of an architectural paradise that we're going to be able to walk along and see a whole bunch of different ranges of authentic constructions, with the best kind of buildings being saved a little bit towards the end, where two great philanthropists will end up donating a fair amount of money to be able to help Greenwich grow in the early 1900s. And those two guys, who we're going to end up seeing and talking about later on, are Havemeyer and Bruce, Robert M. Bruce, and Robert, R.O. Havemeyer. Robert, can't remember what his middle name, but Havemeyer and Bruce end up donating a lot of the buildings, land, property, and wealth that we'll use to build our first town hall, our first school here, our first post office, and that's all coming along. Well, what do we have here? Just walking down memory lane, it's worth just looking back. This building today, which is now TD Bank, guys, this used to be a People's Bank. This is where I had my first bank account as a little kid. And up here was where now there is nothing, but this used to be a comic book store. And I would take the money from the bank and I'd put it into the comic book store. Turns out comic books did not end up being a terrific investment for me, as my younger sisters eventually used them to cut out all the pretty pictures and make some pretty fun dioramas. Yeah, c'est la vie. The things you won't end up owning you, right? And no one knows that better than Greenwich, Connecticut. Hey, bar. Welcome, Macave Bar. So over there you've got a restaurant, the Ginger Man. That used to be here 20 years ago, and it's still there, which is pretty rare. As we go, we're going to see some pretty famous shops, and here's one that friends and family will remember. It's Best Ever Cleaners. This place has been here forever. This is one of the longest standing places in Greenwich, and my dad used to get his shirts done here. So how about that? So welcome back, best ever. Glad to see you guys still in there. Very friendly as always. Starch on hangers, please. And over here we've got a Steinway & Sons. You don't have a Steinway & Sons piano shop on just any street, so you know that something is going right here. We'll continue walking down. Got a Sephora over to our left-hand side. Funky Monkey over here. This used to be a toy store back in the day as well, and remains a toy store, a different toy store. But we keep moving because we don't want to listen to that music too much. Not while we can only take about 5 to 10 seconds of music before we get dinged. So now I'm going to cross over again to this side of the street because I want to show you a pretty cool building right back here behind us. And if you can look up and see this building, which is right here, and the building that's right next to it, just really quick, that building there is a great example of a style of architecture known as Queen Anne style. We can see it up there at the top, especially of the building, this little kind of uneven roof line, if you will, this asymmetrical and quite eccentric eave line that's there. And this building used to be the Greenwich Trust Bank. It was built in 1887, folks. 1887. And that makes a lot of sense because that's around the time that Greenwich was really growing into its own and firmly a suburb, being connected as well to New York by not just train lines, and which is where we're going to end the tour today, down by the train station, but also connected by steamship lines. So people could commute from New York, from Manhattan, to Greenwich and back and forth. And there starts to become that commuter suburb, which, of course, Brooklyn and Brooklyn Heights, where we're going to be tomorrow, was the first suburb of America and of New York. Now, just as a juxtaposition to the building right next to this old Greenwich Trust building, take a look at this one here. I don't know what this building originally was, but just a cool difference in the design style, because this is Art Deco here that we're looking at. Pretty simplified, not too many extra kind of bells and whistles on it, but Queen Anne versus Art Deco. So we'll keep on walking down Greenwich Avenue. We've got a CVS here. And as I walked up the avenue before, lots of people grabbing their lunches, sitting out. Now, if there's any specific shops that anyone wants me to pin over to and take a closer look at, just let me know. Oh, Alan Edmonds. There used to be a jewelry store here, I believe, that is closed. That had been there for a long time. Now, I don't know what the current rental prices are on Greenwich Avenue, but I'm seeing a bunch of for lease and for rent signs, which seems like things aren't going as well as you might have hoped for commercial real estate. But let's take a quick look at this building right over here, the Shreve, Crump and Lowe building. It is a lovely classically inspired building, described as being finely detailed and well proportioned. It is a absolute textbook example of classical revival style architecture. You can get a feeling that from these Ionic columns here in the front. And fine jewelry, watches and gifts since 1796. Beautiful building. I think we should take a quick peek inside, guys. Let's try it. Let's see if we can just look real quick. We're not getting in too much trouble. Beautiful. And a little champagne to welcome you into the shop. All right, I can see the lady looking at me. I'm gonna walk back out again. Tage, good to see you, man. Thanks for saying hey, and Rebecca, yeah, great. Please ask away. Don't hesitate to give a shout and ask if you see something that you're interested in and you want me to talk more about Vineyard Vines. We also get a better look at this classical revival building here from this corner. You can see its massiveness. Beautiful. Well, normally, guys, we would have had police officers here at these crosswalks for us, but I don't know where they've gone. It's one of the famous things that we would have known and loved Greenwich for, is the white-gloved cops directing traffic, kind of overkill, but they're not there, so I'd heard that they were. They must be on vacation today. J. Crew, next to a shop that some people might recognize by that baby blue color, some people might recognize by the name, Tiffany & Co. Not every day that you end up on a street that has its own Tiffany's. So, hey Nikki, welcome to Greenwich, Connecticut. Doing a walk around my old hometown and a little exploration of what's still here, what's not here anymore, and all the rest. So we're coming up now on some older constructions, and I believe this building to the right is connected to the parish building, which we're about to see right here, which is St. Mary's Parish. It is a postmodern building that was specifically designed to look like the historic setting that it was being placed into. The upper story is set back to kind of maintain the massing of the other neighbored buildings. And there's also echoes of the Beaux-Arts style of buildings that was typical of the time when this building itself was being built in and around 1916. So. Cage asks, love the heritage. Are those buildings connected? Well, physically they're not, but I believe that while this is the parish, church building itself, I believe that building is connected from the sense that maybe that is where the church leaders, I guess, what is it, like a cardinal? No, priests would live. And then this space here, which it connects over to, there is a center in there, which I remember as a kid being able to go in and like a community center space that it connects over to from the church. So, yeah. We're very close to what would have been called the 4th Ward, and that would have been behind this now central Greenwich Avenue commercial street. Originally, the buildings along the street would have been residential properties, but as Greenwich continues to grow in wealth and value and importance, the street is designed and developed for commercial, goal, and the residential buildings were actually moved off of. That's loud. Were moved off of the street and moved to the sides. We're actually going to go down and see where the old fire station is in a little bit, which is probably where this Greenwich truck number 1 is headed to. So we'll learn more about that then. Now, Colleen, jump in and tell me, if I'm not mistaken, didn't this Saks Fifth Avenue here used to be where the Woolworths was? Or am I down too far now? Maybe Woolworths was up a little bit further, but certainly Woolworths is gone now. And we can see that sans Woolworths, you get a Saks Fifth Avenue. Both inventions of New York City, if you will, in a way. Although Woolworths didn't get started in New York proper, its headquarters would end up being in New York in the Woolworth building, that five and dime concept. But more importantly, the idea of taking a shop and leaving the goods out in a place where people could actually touch them themselves, rather than having to ask the shopkeeper to be able to have access to the goods and services that are there. Tage asks, how far from New Haven are you, or from NYC Hartford? So we're about split in the middle between New York and New Haven right now. And it's good that you mentioned New Haven, because it would be in the 1920s where we would get electricity on the train lines, and they would actually expand from 2 to 4 tracks between New Haven and New York, which greatly increased the amount of traffic that we were able to enjoy here. Yeah, that means that Greenwich became ever so more important and more visited. Let's take a closer look. Thank you guys, appreciate that. A close look over here. And across again. Now today, Bank of America, this bank originally, I believe, was not the Greenwich Trust, but the Putnam Trust building, and you can see a great example here once again of Beaux-Arts style architecture, with bells and whistles and the clock up in the front. It does sort of look like a planetarium, Tage. I agree with you, with the dome in the back there. Whoop. We're about halfway down Greenwich Avenue at this point. And it's worth thinking that this area of Greenwich Avenue is either most recently developed, like it's new, or it's built really after the beginning of the 1900s. Now, Greenwich, like I was saying before, originally was actually farmland. It was called Horseneck because there was a large Prada shop. Shell writes. I don't remember the Prada shop. I don't even know where I just passed a Prada shop. Hobbs, Shoes and More. Maybe I'm seeing a little bit of delay on that, but there's so many new, beautiful shops here. And having not been to Greenwich for a little while myself, it's like a rediscovery in itself to try to really remember whether or not, like for instance, was this building an original building or is this rebuilt in the style? I think it's original. Those overhangs look too decorative not to be. So we were saying before, Horseneck. Yeah, there was a large pasture full of horses that communally people then started calling it Horseneck. And from there, through the Civil War, it's really after the Civil War that Greenwich starts to boom and grow very quickly. So if you want to think 1870s through 1920s is sort of the heyday of the building out of the downtown Greenwich Historic District. Oh, this is a great building over here. The Smith Building that you can see over on the left-hand side, where there's an Hermes and a Toomey shop down in the lower section of it. Whoop, let me zoom a little bit for you guys. There you go. This was a building that was specifically built to be a commercial building that would then also complement the classically inspired designs of the municipal center buildings. It was built in 1906, and it used to house the law offices It used to house law offices, which made sense because it was right next to the town hall, which we're going to go take a look at in a second. It is a mixture of Georgian Revival and Italian Renaissance design. And you can get a little bit of that Italian Renaissance element from those Doric columns, and we see directly in front of us, supporting this semicircular rotundal entrance to Hermes and to me. Which takes us to why, what style, what other building is it trying to take into account? Well, it's this building over here, which on Bruce Place, one of the buildings donated by cotton baron Robert Bruce. It's the old Greenwich Town Hall. Today it is the senior center, but originally it was our town hall. It's a Beaux-Arts style building designed by Mowbray and Uffinger, built in 1904. It's shaped like a vertical cube. And you can see at the top of the 3 stories, the roof rises above a kind of a copper cornice. We've got that clock built, and there's a small domed cupola up there at the top. You can just see that clock on the tree. We might have a better view of it as we cross over in a moment. Right. Building was donated to the town in 1905 upon its completion, with the goal of being the town hall. So, thank you, Robert Bruce. Hell writes, what kind of roof does it have? Yeah. Well, up on the roof, you've got that cornice and clock, but what is the actual roof up there? I'm not sure. I mean, the roof has below it, you see that kind of copper core. Yeah, you know what? I think it is a mansard roof. Yeah, I can just see that. Oh, if I step back a little bit further. Yeah. There's that mansard roof rising above that copper cornice. Runs around the side. And we can see that it's the old town hall, in fact, because they kept the writing up there. Kind of them. Beautiful. Beaux-Arts style. Those big columns up in the front. Guys, you know, those columns, and that's one of the great elements of Beaux-Arts, is that these are actually not supporting columns. They're probably, not nearly as heavy as they look, so they don't have to be supported themselves. It's decorative, right? And it's always my favorite way of describing and thinking of Beaux-Arts architecture is that if usual architecture says take a piece of jewelry off before you leave the house, Beaux-Arts architecture says put on as many extra pieces of jewelry as you can before you leave the house. And let's cross over here really quick towards the Greenwich Commons. And we'll do a quick look because it's the battle of the philanthropists, folks. If the building behind us is, on Bruce Place and named after Robert Bruce, over here we've got property donated to us by Robert Havemeyer. And whereas Bruce had made his money from cotton, Havemeyer made his fortune from sugar, believe it or not. Did I say Robert? His name's not Robert, it's Henry. Henry Havemeyer. Henry Havemeyer. Now, there are actually multiple buildings over here that are donated by Havemeyer, which is the reason why it makes sense for us to walk a little bit closer so I can show you 2 of them at the same time and give a quick background to that. Henry O. Havemeyer was the third generation in sugar, in a sugar family that were actually German immigrants who were bakers and had come to the US in the 1800s as part of a contract to work in Lower Manhattan at a bakery. Hey Jim, good to see you, brother. Welcome, man. Always a pleasure. Good to see you. And Havemeyers go on to become first they, like I say, they're bakers, and then they're working in at a sugar bakery, and then they move over towards sugar refinery, a real family operation with cousins and brothers and uncles and everyone being pulled into it. And their corporation, which was like the American Sugar Trust, AST, I believe was its, will become more famous by its new name, Domino. Is what they changed their name to in the early 1900s. And of course, Domino Sugar, it's huge, right? When you think of Domino's today, you think maybe of pizza. Actually, Domino Sugar sued Domino Pizza in the 70s. Turned out they didn't win, but before the pizza, Domino meant sugar, and the Havemeyers were the Domino people. So there's a lot of sugar money, very, very sweet cash to be invested here. And Jim asks, does Jane Fonda still have a residence in Greenwich? It's a great question. I'm not exactly sure. Does someone else watching know if Jane Fonda still has a residence in Greenwich? I was looking at famous people that have a residence in Greenwich, and it was like Mel Gibson and Matt Lauer, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stop reading these names because these are not good Greenwich residents. But maybe Jane's a good one, so she'd be worth saying if we had it or not. All right, so this building that we're looking at in the distance over here is actually is the second high school of Greenwich, Connecticut. The second one that was built, but today it is our main municipal building, and it is the town hall. The fields in between us and that building are the Havemeyer fields. And as I spin around here, we get to the old Havemeyer School. And the Havemeyer building. This building, the Havemeyer building, was built to be the Havemeyer School. It's the first of the buildings that now, were built, the oldest of those buildings that form the municipal area. It's not a school any longer, but it's connected to education because this is the Greenwich Board of Education building today. So still serving a municipal goal. It was designed by a firm called Loring and Phipps, and it's designed in a style which I'd not been familiar with officially, but it's called Richardsonian Romanesque design, which is characteristic of having pronounced horizontality and accented by, specific architectural elements, including the kind of Syrian arch that you can see here in front of us in this recessed entrance. So originally it was used as a public school, the Havemeyer School, and which, in 1892 had been donated here by our sugar friend, Henry Havemeyer. But, yeah. Oh, Tage writes, she lives in LA, but certainly has a history in Greenwich. Yes. Fonda lived in a large rambling Greenwich house overlooking the former toll booths on the Merritt Parkway. Oh, wow. Backcountry. The Merritt Parkway runs along about, if you were to drive 10 minutes north of where I am right now, the Merritt Parkway runs east to west from here. Directly where I am, you've got I-95, the interstate, and the two of them kind of cut across southern Connecticut until 95 continues to run towards Boston, and the Merritt Parkway kind of scoops up and starts to head north at one point. Well, let's see. why don't we talk about, let me quickly talk about this little memorial that I recently discovered, because I find it pretty interesting. Because this is Raynal Bolling. And Raynal Bolling, all my time growing up in Greenwich, never knew what this guy was about. And it turns out that Raynal Bolling had lived in Greenwich for 5 years and then went into the newly formed kind of Air Force aviation department in World War I. He was a guy who was really pushing for the U.S. to intercede and become involved in World War I, and so hence he was an early volunteer. But the really interesting thing about it is he is the first American aviator to be killed on the battlefield in World War I. Yeah. And sadly, it wasn't in a plane. He'd recently arrived in France and was, gearing up for the fight, so to say, when he and his driver were headed towards, the front. And they came across some Allied troops, French troops, and asked them, where, we've just passed this base. It's an abandoned base, like an abandoned, Allied base, and where's the German line? And the troops said, well, it's miles away. It's like 30 miles from here. And Bolling and his driver decided that they were going to head towards, a high ridge, a small mountaintop, if you will, a small hilltop, so that way they could watch the battlefield from an elevated position. Unfortunately, they only went about 300 meters down the road when they were ambushed by German machine gun crews on both sides of the road. And the car was filled with bullets, unable to escape at that point. The engine, no longer working. The driver and Bolling, I forgot the driver's name, they hid in 2 shell craters, right? And the firefight went on for about 15 minutes. Only Bolling was armed, and he only had a service revolver with him. And as the enemy troops advanced towards the craters and were preparing to execute the driver, who was pretending to be dead already and lying in the bomb crater, turns out he wasn't dead, the Germans start to shoot into the bomb crater, and then Bolling jumps up and fires twice at one of the enemy soldiers, kills him. His compatriot turns around, fires on Bolling, shoots him twice, once in the chest and once in the head. His driver, who had been pretending to be dead, then waits till the place clears out. He escapes, but only gets about half a mile before he too is then captured and then becomes a prisoner of war. And that's how we know the story, because he told it later on. So, go figure. Okay, back to Greenwich Avenue. Down here, what you have is, behind this obelisk, you have our old Greenwich post office. Now, this is actually also land that was donated by Havemeyer, good old Henry O, sugar baron, and he donates this land and the land to the south of us, going down this direction. Oh my God, I never even noticed that. Look at that. The name of the street down here. How about that? Let me get it. Can you guys see that? It's Bolling Street, named after that aviator right there. Never knew. Discovered new things about my old hometown. Like, for instance, this gorgeous old post office is now a Restoration Hardware. Yeah. So, everything's changing. I remember coming down here on the street, and in the old days in Greenwich, you'd see cars just parked all along here. And I remember once this gorgeous Ferrari parked right in one of these spots, and the car was on, and the keys were in the ignition, and there was no one else there. It was just a running Ferrari because the owner of the Ferrari had gone into the post office and was waiting in line and hadn't taken his keys with him, just left the car running right over here. And I think that was like very much the feeling of Greenwich growing up. And it was so incredibly safe that you felt like you could literally leave the keys to your Ferrari running, and running in the car before you'd headed to the post office. I don't think we ever locked our door at night growing up. Tage asks, how old was I when I was living in Greenwich? 4 years old through till about 14. And then I went away to boarding school. But would come back to Greenwich regularly to come in and visit again. I'm just crossing over because if memory serves me, the I feel like the fire department used to be right over here. Maybe not, though. The fire station used to be back here. I'm a little bit lost. My old hometown. No, it must be further down. I think the next block. But that gives us a chance to, thank you, appreciate that. Gives us a chance to walk by Starbucks. This is the first Starbucks in Greenwich, and it was the first place that I ever had a Frappuccino. My first Frappuccino, one of many, was here at this Starbucks. And Starbucks was like such a revolutionary new concept. It must have been like 1992, 94 at the latest. And I remember, it must have been 94. And I remember when I opened up tours in Germany, and we ended up having a partnership with the Starbucks at the Brandenburg Gate on Pariserplatz in Berlin, and talking to the Starbucks guy there saying like, look, I love Starbucks. I've been going to Starbucks already now for like 12 years. And he's like, what? You've been a Starbucks customer for 12 years? He's like, we've only been in Germany for like 6 months. He was really impressed by my length of time consuming Frappuccinos. So this block actually, it's kind of interesting and worth mentioning. Sorry, I should probably be on the other side of the street. This block that we're walking down right here, the 300 block, if you will, of Greenwich Avenue, is all purposefully built commercial buildings. So it was designed, with it's the first block as an entire block, which is developed and designed with a kind of a 20th century commercial architectural agenda. And you can see a consistent sort of theme along here of Georgian revival and classical revival styles. So they've done an incredible job of preserving most of these building fronts here, which were mostly built between 1910 and 1914. So, but it gives you a great sense of it's kind of this commercial block that's 100 years old now. Tage asks, what is the most important business there now on Greenwich Avenue, huh? Probably not too many of them are that important. I mean, I guess Restoration Hardware is important if you want to have a dream sofa. Christian Science Reading Room is important if you're a Christian Scientist. I kind of want to say like the train station at the bottom of Greenwich Avenue might be the most important. This here is used to be Versailles, which was a great place for a piece of cake or a lunch. And now they call it Cafe V. So this place here, Zim's, now that's amazing that it's still here. This is where we used to go buy sodas and candy and bubble gum and taffy. I can't believe this place is still here. This has been here forever. Let's take a quick look inside. Wow. Hi there. I was just looking in. I used to come here like 35 years ago to buy candy. It's amazing. You guys are still here. So cool. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hey, my friend. super cool. Tage asks, are these buildings just facades, or are they the actual buildings behind them as well? No, it's the whole building still. You can see that it's deeper than just the facade, you know. Although a lot of this is wishing for some repair. Oh, look. Didn't we all used to Tage Rights? I used to have a shop like that growing up where I could go and buy candy, and I feel like we all did. It's one of the lovely things about it. How often, this is the first time I've ever seen a Tesla showroom on a regular Holt Street. Yeah, Greenwich. That's little Warby Parker here. Get your glasses done. And we're coming up on, here's an Aesop, Herman Miller. It feels very Soho-esque, like New York Soho. Fancy, nice shops, but bigger. Now, that shop across the way is Richard's, but it used to be actually up here on the right-hand side. If I don't remember falsely. Used to be, I believe, in this white building, which is now, that used to be Richard's Self. Now it's an Apple shop. Michelle writes, I have a funny story about Zins. You bought something else, not comics. Probably pornography. I think Zins was a place that as a teenage boy you could convince older people to go in and buy dirty magazines for you. It just seems like the dirty magazine business took a big hit with the internet, huh? Can't imagine it's quite the thriving industry that it used to be. Pretty sure, like I said, this used to be the old Richard's. And the thing about Richard's, which used to be there, but now is over here, is that there's a guy in Greenwich who had an idea for like a kind of a different style of clothing. I mean, it was like yacht clothing, really. And convince the store, Richard's, to allow him to set up like a kind of a trial clothing pop-up inside of the Richard's shop. And his name was Tommy Hilfiger. I mean, I don't know if that was his real name or not, but that was the brand of clothing. So it actually gets started right back here on Greenwich Avenue, right? And that's where Tommy Hilfiger gets its start. It was like a soft test into the Greenwich market. And it turned out it did very well in Greenwich, Connecticut with that yachting clothing. There you go, birthplace of Tommy Hilfiger if you wear that stuff. Okay. So, there's people finishing up their lunches here. Some nice smells. This place is a Melo. Always felt like a good crepe. I think it's a crepe place. It also makes good croque monsieurs, if I remember. Here you've got Mediterraneo, Mediterranean, Italian style restaurant. Used to be
at the top.
Used to be I remember. Oh, music! Stop! No, get away from me! Oh God! No, we didn't listen to that for 10 seconds. I think we're probably okay. Oh, hey! Thanks to G's. Appreciate you stopping by over on Twitch. Hey, the stream's there for later, brother. So you can always come back whenever you like later on. And Tage asks, do I have a favorite memory in mind from? Oh, thank you very much. From this time. Gosh, so many times coming and hanging out down here on Greenwich Avenue, especially down here at the bottom of the avenue. And I'm going to say that my favorite memory has got to be connected to, I'm going to be going in here in a little bit and getting some pastries for my buddy and his dad, who I've come down to Connecticut to meet up with. And over there we've got a Theory, great clothing shop. Shirts actually fit me really well, but unfortunately out of my price range these days. So gifts, folks, gifts. No, don't buy clothing. But if you did, I'd understand. So Tage, there was a restaurant up here on the left-hand side, which, like, I think that they've built a building here now. Like, this building, I don't think used to be here. And there was a restaurant called Thataway's that, yeah, this used to be like I'm pretty sure this used to be like an open plot of land. Like, it was like an outside patio space, and like that was the entrance into it. But the story about, and it makes a lot of sense because I'm here now with I'm here now to go visit my friend Oliver, and Oliver and we used to go to where this patio is gone now, and where the restaurant Thataway's is now East End instead. And we were absolutely under 21 years old. But one time we'd gone in to get the Thataway's burger, which is this delicious burger. They had like blue cheese on it, gorgonzola cheese, something so good. And Oliver and I sit down, and the waitress comes up and she said, what do you guys want to drink? And we were like, oh, I don't know, like, I guess go to water or Dr. Pepper. And she's like, you don't want a couple beers or something? And we were like friggin' 17, 18 years old. Not even. Yeah, maybe we were 17, 18, something like that, back from boarding school, because Oliver also went to boarding school. And so we were both back at the same time. When other people would be in high school, we would have like weird vacations. Bar asks, what's Twitch? Twitch is another social media platform, usually for video game players, but musicians use it more and more, and I live stream onto Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube all at the same time. And the G's tends to watch over there, so people can watch wherever they want to. But the Thataway's burger, and this woman, I believe her name was Sarah, I think it was Sarah. Sandra. It was Sandra. Her name was Sandra. And Sandra basically says, do you guys want some beers or what? And we're like, we look at each other, we're like, is this a trap? We're like, yeah, we'll get 2 beers. And she brings us the beers. And then we drank the beers. And then we ordered 2 more beers. And we drank those beers. And for the next few years, until Oliver and I turned 21, every time we would come back to Greenwich, we would always go to Thataway's. And we would always be like, yeah, table for 2. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, we'll put you over here. Like, no, where's Sandra's section? And they'd be like, oh, she's working over there. We're like, we're gonna sit in Sandra's section if that's okay. And then they'd sit us in Sandra's section, and we'd show up, and we'd be like, hey, where's Sandra working tonight? They'd be like, she's not working tonight. We'd be like, all right, we're out of here. We would leave because we were getting beers. We were paying for the beers, and we were tipping out the butt for these beers because we were so grateful for it. But true story, So restaurant owners, you want to convince underage kids to come and eat and drink at your restaurant, serve them alcohol. It will work. And sure enough, as soon as Oliver and I stopped coming here to get drinks, underage, they built a new building. Thataway's was gone. So I think Tage is my favorite story from down here. But, oh, this looks sad to me. I'm about to see something that doesn't make me happy. It looks like the old movie theater is gone. And usually it used to be that it was right here that it would have listed all the names of the upcoming movies. And now they're gone. No longer there. I think that's the end of the old railroad theater, as we called it. But behind it, you can see the railroad tracks over there. And beyond that, if we were to keep on walking, and maybe we will just keep on walking for a second. and I can walk you guys down towards the harbor, and we can take a look at part of the reason why Greenwich is so beautiful, which is the waterway which connects us here. And it's the same waterway that, of course, those early commuters in the late 1800s to early 1900s would have been using to take steamboats into New York. Also making, can I cross here or what? Why do I not have a light? Really? You want me to do it? Fine, I'll press it for signal. I didn't realize. Both train and steam, right? Both putting this place on the map. And you know, the real irony of it is that whilst Greenwich was this commuter hub, this suburb, it ended up becoming a place where a lot of hedge funds and financial institutions would end up moving ultimately. So now you have like big hedge funds and VCs, venture capitalist firms that work out of Greenwich. And it's because Greenwich is the first town across the border from New York State into Connecticut State. And by moving to Greenwich, the business and also the individuals themselves, they avoid paying a lot of income tax in New York State. If you live in New York City, on top of your regular state and federal tax, you pay an additional 10% city tax. So a lot of incentive for big earners to say, well, maybe I'm going to go live someplace else. And I'm just going to commute through to New York, back and forth from Greenwich. And ironically, eventually, those commuters said, why don't we just move the business to Greenwich instead? And we don't have to keep commuting. And that's what ends up happening. In fact, guys, hey Jeanette, good to see ya. In fact, it's right up here, up this road right here, in this building. Well, let me zoom in on it for you. That building right there, that you had a company called Greenwich Capital. Great. And Greenwich Capital was a hedge fund that I applied to work for in 2002. 2002, early 2002. And they called me in for an interview, and they were like, look, you speak some German, but your German isn't great, right? It's not there. We need it to be better. Will you go and do an intensive language class and improve your German language to the point where we can have you working on our German desk here? And I'm like, great, this is what I should be doing. I should work in finance, because what do all my other friends from college do? They work in finance. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I apply, I do the interview, I get the job, and they say, head off, improve your German, come back, and we're gonna get going on your start. Your start date is gonna be in September. And soon after that, I was on a rooftop in Manhattan at a rooftop party and talking to someone about how I was planning to go to Hamburg to go do an intensive German class. And I have no idea who this person was, just a random person at a rooftop party. And they said, you're gonna go to Hamburg? It's 2002. He goes, Hamburg? You should go to Berlin. Berlin is really cool. You should go check out Berlin instead. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, sure, I'm easy. I'm gonna head to Berlin. And I went to Berlin purely with the intention of improving my German to come back and work in that office space that we just walked by a little while ago. And I never did. I ended up staying. The next time I came back to the States, which wasn't for like a year from then, it was to sell my car and my TV and my fridge and, you know, grab some more clothing and head back to Germany. And then Berlin became my home for the next 10, 11 years. So, you know, if it hadn't been for that job offer at Greenwich Capital to go work as a hedge fund guy, and them saying, you need to go get your German to like top notch if you're gonna work in finance in German, if that hadn't happened, I never would have moved to Berlin. And if I hadn't have moved to Berlin and been able to like get a regular job, and I hadn't been kind of forced into working in tourism as a tour guide, knew history, loved history, spoke English, they were looking for English language tour guides. It all starts with that interview and that job offer, and me ultimately not taking it, you know, and moving to Berlin, and then me working as a tour guide and realizing that there was a better way to do tours, and there's a better system for walking tours. Ultimately, by 2003, creating the free walking tour model, which now exists in over 500 cities around the world. You know, I'd never really put it together that it's like those guys from Greenwich Capital are the ones that pushed me in the right direction to get me to make that first step. Look at that. All comes together. Indeed, Jeanette, oh Berlin, that seductress. How alluring she is. You know, like the old mayor said, Berlin ist arm, aber sexy. Berlin's poor, but sexy. That was good old Wovereit. Kind of undone by the airport debacle, fiasco in Berlin. But it is indeed ausgezeichnet, Jim, indeed. Tage, I've never been to Berlin, look forward to meeting Michaela in Cologne in 2022 from River Cruise. Totally. All right. And now that I've walked you down to the water, you can get a feeling of it. Where them steamboats would have come in, where ferries still leave today from good old Indian Harbor and head out there into the Long Island Sound. And if you head west from here, you're going to get to New York City. And if you head east from here along the water, you're going to get to New Haven, Connecticut. So this place, Delamar, is very nice, by the way. If you ever find yourself parking your friend's yacht here in Greenwich, then by all means consider going in here for one of their seafood. Jim writes, speaking of nautical behavior. Yeah. Great. Well, guys, we went for about an hour there. Jim, that Down East design, is that the boat that's... Is that what that is? A Down East design? On these guys in the front? You let me know. Tage asks, okay, great, yeah, it's that Down East design. Very cool. Tage asks, do I ferry? I used to take that ferry, the Indian Harbor ferry, out to I can't remember the island that we would head out to briefly. Greenwich has really weird beaches, and for a long time it was very haughty-taughty about who could use the beaches. And you'd had to have like a beach pass to be able to come. I don't think it was particularly legal, but there's an old history of, not just in Greenwich, I mean Coney Island, which we're going to be visiting together later in the week. Coney Island used to be all private beaches, and the amusement parks would have boardwalks that they would use to kind of block off access to the beach. So you'd kind of have to pay to get into the beach, but a lot of it, after they were forced not to do it that way, it was that they had changing rooms that you could use. Anyway, the point of it is that beach access is something people are always fighting over. Steamboat Road is the name of this part of the road, of course, because steamboats was what would take you to New York. So, okay. Jeanette writes, is the fair still there? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. The Greenwich Fair. Tage writes, I can watch, again, regularly watching Olympics till the 8th. Oh, because you've got connections. Okay, great. Oh, perfect. Well, I've loaded a bunch of different tours that are gonna, does Coney Island have a fair? It has amusement parks, and it has a lot of other stuff. It's got a lot of boardwalk to be able to go and see and visit. It has tons of attraction, like amusement park attractions. Luna Park is the big park that is still there right now. There's another small park next to this Ferris wheel. I mean, I'm going to learn a lot more about it in the next couple of days, but they have like an augmented Ferris wheel down at Coney Island, which is like called a Wonder Wheel. And the Wonder Wheel, the idea is that it's not just a Ferris wheel, which would like kind of, spins, but it actually, the individual carriages do weird motions and move around on movers to make it more interesting. It's also where Nathan's Hot Dogs, were made kind of pretty famous. The US used to be nuts for hot dogs. It's a terrible, terrible thing for you to eat, guys. It's really one of the worst food items you can put in your body is a hot dog. But yeah, Nathan's always does their all-you-can-eat hot dog competition, and that gets them a lot of fame. And you can wait for an hour and a half for a hot dog still down at Coney Island. We're going to see all of that later on in the week because we're going to be going there on Thursday and exploring that. Probably going to go to a Coney Island Cyclones baseball game, minor league AAA baseball game after that. So plan to load that into the YouTube list of events that are coming up as well and show you guys that too. Tomorrow we're going to be finally in Brooklyn Heights doing that Brooklyn story. And then on Friday we're going to go to the Brooklyn Botanical Garden during their free entrance period, which is also something I really want to show you guys. Cool things that you can see but don't have to pay for. It means I save money, it means that you get access, everyone's happy. So, Jeanette writes, and they have the machine from Big that can turn you into a 13-year-old. Does Coney Island have the actual one? Because where Big was filmed is actually not too far from here, where we are right now, in a place called Rye, New York. Rye Playland, which is unlike Coney Island or Luna Park, which is famous for the cyclone, which, at the time when they built it in, I think it was like 1923 is when the cyclone opens. The goal had been to make the fastest roller coaster of all time, and it's actually an incredible roller coaster. Like, it's not up to code, so they couldn't build it ever today at this point. But Rye Playland, which is in Rye, New York, not in Westport, but Rye, New York, but very close, about as far from Greenwich as Westport is, to be honest with you. And that's where Tom Hanks goes in Big and talks to Zoltan. Zoltan? I think it's Zoltan, who then gives him his wish to be big. But if the original Zoltan, someone will tell me. If the original machine is actually Coney Island, that'll be awesome. And I'll definitely have to go and check that out as well. Tage asked, should I check YouTube for the list of events or Facebook? I've only loaded them up on YouTube so far. Facebook is coming. Zoltar. Thank you, Jim, with the save and the win there. So yeah, Zoltar. Exactly, Jeanette. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a Rye Playland trip as well and show you guys that, because that was the amusement park of my youth. Not the Cyclone, but the Dragon Coaster. And the animal symbol of Rye Playland was the dragon for the Dragon Coaster. And that thing is definitely not up to code. I mean, I remember one time my handlebar didn't lock in, and I was hanging on for dear life, trying to just hold on so I didn't fly out of the thing. Super dangerous. But yeah, not like the Ferris wheel, the Wonder Wheel at Coney Island, which in its 120 years of service and usage has never had one single accident. Not a one. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh yeah, live stream from the ride, writes Jeanette. That's a great idea. From the Wonder Wheel, I will for sure. All right, well, guys, we're on Railroad Avenue here at the bottom of Greenwich Avenue, where Railroad and Greenwich meet. Reminisce one more time about those beers in a lot that no longer exists. And I'm gonna let you guys, I'm gonna let you hunger for more until tomorrow, when we'll be back again. Same time, different place, Brooklyn Heights, seeing some of the iconic buildings there, as well as some of the great views that we have from up in the highest point of Brooklyn. The highest point of the 5 boroughs, I believe, is accurate. So Tage had written here as a goodbye question, Red Hook, Brooklyn has a nice ferry, it's supposed to be nice, maybe tour. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely planning to do a Red Hook tour. And I'm thinking that the Red Hook tour is gonna be a morning tour, potentially. Probably too early for North America, because it's a great place to go and catch a sunrise. So I'm thinking of like a sunrise early morning tour, but then again, you don't see as many people then. That's a nice park to watch the sun. I'm debating it. It's gonna come up though in the next couple of weeks, so for sure. Hey, yes, Nikki, great. I look forward to seeing you in Brooklyn Heights as well. And Jim, don't worry about it, man. It's summer, it's busy, we work in tourism, but great to have seen you today, my friend. Makes me very happy. Well, Tage writes, I could plan for a sunrise. You might just still be up if I tell you we're gonna do a sunrise tour. But I'll put it up in YouTube and Facebook, and I'll let you guys know. All right. So, well, that's me for now. Thanks you guys for joining so much. I really appreciate it. It was good to see you guys, old faces and a couple new ones. And if you've been watching the live stream, now's a great time on YouTube just to hit that thumbs up button underneath the live. It helps a ton. And if you're watching this as a video, keep looking out for the live ones, or enjoy the videos, whatever's best for you. As long as you're learning something and enjoying it, that's the key thing. So, Mila, thanks for being there. Jeanette, thanks for being there. Tage, thanks for being there, buddy. And I will sign off from Greenwich, Connecticut, old hometown. Walk down memory lane for myself here. Remember it all being so much bigger. Hale, great to see you. Lorraine, Daniel, and Michelle. Appreciate you guys. Oh yeah, look, there is a little photo shoot. Is that what's going on? Is that like a Instagram photo shoot behind me? I don't know. The kids these days. It's true. It's true. That's what was going on. They all looked over now. It's embarrassing. Mwah. Bye, Jim. Bye, Nikki. See you guys. Take care. Be well.